The Mariners have already crossed off their top priority this winter by re-signing Josh Naylor, but plenty of questions remain. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Monday, November 17th, 2025. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. My name is Dane Gonzalez, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Colby Patnode. We've been covering the Mariners for over half a decade, and we're looking forward to another day of doing so today. We're going to open up the mailbag today and answer some of your Mariners questions like we do here every single Monday. But before we do, I want to shout out our title sponsor today, Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's LOCKEDON MLB for $20 off your first purchase. All right, kicking us off here on Mailbag Monday is Story, who wants to know, now that Naylor has signed, what are the odds we bring back Jorge Polanco? If we don't bring him back, do the Mariners stay in-house at second base or sign/trade for another bat there?
Yeah, I think the important thing here actually is that Polo isn't really the primary second baseman in terms of that's what they want to do. I think they would be looking to re-sign Polo as the primary DH who would play second base, on the days where Cal Raleigh needs a DH day or somebody else needs a DH day. So I think you're actually looking at him as only a portion of your second base solution, but primarily he's the DH. I think that's how they're actually going to look at Polo. As for the odds that he comes back, I don't think they're changed greatly by the extension or signing, however you want to put it, of Josh Naylor. I think they're about the same. I don't think they went down. I just don't think that they went up. The Mariners have been very vocal that they think that the best thing they can do this winter is to bring back as many of these guys in their lineup as they can and then go out and get a bullpen arm or something like that. So I think if we're going to take their word for it, then you should feel pretty good that Polo is going to return. But you never know how this market's going to react. That's just the simple reality of things, is that it only takes one team and you're out. It really is that volatile. And, Polo is going to be one of the more valuable bats that is actually out there this winter. So it's not a guarantee that he's back. I'm pretty confident that he will be. But it'll be as the DH who will occasionally play second, not as the everyday second baseman as he kind of became towards the end of the year because of the struggles of Cole Young. So, as for whether or not the Mariners,
they wanted to get Canzone in the lineup, they wanted to keep Robles' defense out in right field,
right.
all that. Yeah, there were a lot of factors to that, but yeah, I wouldn't expect that Polo would resign and all of a sudden, all right, you're going to play 120 some odd games at second base. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I think the idea there, again, like you said, would be for him to DH full time. Yeah. Were you going to add anything to your thoughts there?
No, just as for whether or not the Mariners stay in house, if Polo doesn't sign, then I think if Polo signs, it's more likely they stay in house and just give Cole Young a shot because they have Polo as kind of a emergency backup at second base. But I think you have to be open and willing to look at all avenues to improve your team. And, just saying, well, Cole Young will definitely be better in his second try. It's not a guarantee. He's 22 years old. He's a young kid. We don't know how long it's going to be before he's good. It could be next year, certainly. But I do think that the Mariners should go out and try and find a veteran or some kind of, higher floor option who can play second base in the event that Cole Young's not ready. So even if they want to give Cole Young the primary job, that's fine. Hopefully they add a good third baseman then instead. But if they are going to plan on having Cole Young be the everyday second baseman with Polo on the roster, it makes more sense. But even then, I would still like them to go out and get a veteran who, a floor guy, basically a Dylan Moore replacement, not Leo Rivas, who is a fun player, but I don't trust him to be the everyday primary second baseman, which he might have to be if Cole Young really does falter again. So you have to protect yourself a little bit here. But I think the Polo thing would make it, the Polo re-signing would make it more likely that the Mariners are thinking they're okay to go into next year with Cole Young as the plan at second base.
Yeah. And I've said this before that I'm totally fine giving Cole Young some runway to start the year and see if he can, take this thing and run with it. But if you're going to do that, you need to do something at third base. I really just don't want to go into the season with Ben Williamson and Cole Young both guaranteed starting spots, guaranteed every day at bats. One is fine, and I would prefer Young over Williamson, but two is too much for me. So you got to do something at one of the spots. All right, Rayleigh fan wants to know, what do you make of the acquisition of Robinson Ortiz? Do you think it's an attempt to carry more than one lefty reliever this year? So last time when we were recording our reaction to the Josh Naylor news, the Mariners actually made a trade with the Dodgers, small trade, for left-handed reliever Robinson Ortiz, who's been a career minor leaguer, hasn't pitched at the major league level yet. And going back to the Dodgers in that deal is Tyler Guff, who's currently recovering from Tommy John surgery. He's kind of a popular name that's been thrown in on the back end of a lot of like Fan Fiction Friday deals we've reacted to. So you guys can't use Tyler Guff anymore. He's in the Dodgers organization.
We'll still get those trade offers.
Oh, probably. Ortiz is, he's another pile arm, but he's actually he's more interesting than most pile arms. So he's like a pile arm plus, which is a fancy way of just saying like you might actually have a shot to compete for a roster spot in the spring. Yeah. His sinker and slider graded out slightly above average down in the minors. Missed a fair amount of bats. What's most interesting to me, what stands out the most about him, is that he actually missed quite a few bats in the zone. I think it was only a 79% zone contact rate by opponents against Ortiz. Also, limited hard contact a fair amount, kept the ball off the barrel quite a bit. So those are some interesting notes to kind of hang on to here and just keep in the back of your mind when watching him this spring.
Yeah. It's also worth noting the Dodgers did add him to the 40-man to protect him. They liked him enough that they were worried somebody's going to take him in the Rule 5, and the Mariners were probably one of those teams that was getting ready to take him in the Rule 5. There's nothing wrong with adding to the pile. The Mariners have already done that with Cole Wilcox and Ryan Lutos. To add another guy with options, that's an important part of this as well, to the 40-man, to the pile. And it's a pretty good one. He's a lefty who misses a lot of bats, like you said, gets a good amount of strikeouts, avoids hard contact. It's just there are some walk issues here, and that's kind of why he hasn't made it to the big leagues quite yet. But he's kind of the same arm slot that the Mariners typically love to throw out of their pen. So he checks a lot of boxes here, and he'll have a shot. But as for whether or not he's definitely going to be the second lefty in this bullpen, I doubt it. I think he is a hedge, and obviously, again, the Mariners have talked about this pretty openly, that their bullpen had to throw a lot of innings last year, and they had to throw an extra month into the year that they normally don't. And so they felt they needed to, improve both the depth and the impact of their bullpen heading into 2026. And this is more of a depth move with the potential to be an impact move. So it's not all that surprising that the Mariners have, already gone out and added, major league ready, quote unquote, talent to their bullpen and to the back end of the 40-man, because they need to, because they know that the depth will be tested at some point in 2026, but also this is kind of the time of year you do it. You kind of have to do it now. And your 40-man rosters have to be, or you have to protect the guys from the Rule 5 draft by tomorrow. So we might see more of these types of trades, by then. So this is the time of year to do it. And I think that, almost said Cano, I think Ortiz is just here to be a pile arm, but he's an interesting one who could pop and really provide something out of that bullpen. So it's a good risk. It's a good chance to take, and we'll see how it works out. But yeah, I think he has an opportunity to impact the major league roster in 2026, maybe as soon as opening day, but we'll have to see what else they do in the bullpen. I do think the Mariners are going to add at least one significant bullpen arm. I don't know if it'll be a lefty or a righty. I don't know if it'll be via trade or via free agency, probably trade. But I do expect them to add a significant bullpen arm this winter. And if it's a lefty, then Ortiz is third on that list. If it's not, then maybe he makes the opening day roster.
All right, we will answer more of your questions here in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by FanDuel and Doer. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Sailors, I got to tell you, I love a good pair of jeans, but I'm also very particular about my jeans. You know, I need the fit to be right. If they're blue jeans especially, there's a very particular shade of light blue I'm looking for. And of course, I need them to be comfortable, right? I mean, that's the name of the game. And well, I just got my first pair of jeans from Doer, and they check off every single box. I got the Performance Denim Slims as well as a Pure Pima Vintage Pocket Tee, and they're both getting added to my regular rotation. Doer jeans have 5 times the stretch of traditional denim. They're antibacterial, meaning your jeans stay fresh longer so you can wear more and wash less. And they're made with Cool Max, which regulates your body temperature and wicks moisture. And Doer combines classic jeans wear with the kind of comfort and performance you get from athletic wear. So it's the best of both worlds. And Doer are pioneers of blending technical innovation with everyday clothing. They invented the original performance denim. So simply put, Doer makes the world's most comfortable pants without having to sacrifice style. Trust me, once you try these, they'll be your go-to. Get a pair for yourself or as an amazing holiday gift. Go now to shopdoer.com/lockedonseattle. You'll get 15% off your first order. That's shop, DUER.com/lockedonseattle for 15% off. Shopdoer.com/lockedonseattle. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen, and also thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. It's Mailbag Monday. Let's get back into your questions. Max wants to know, heard Justin Hollander talk about the Mariners being okay with Harry Ford as their backup catcher next year. Obviously, if he's not traded. If he is on the roster next year, do you see them using him like Garver, DH a few days a week and then give Cal a day off when needed?
I don't think that Harry Ford is a guy you're going to force into the lineup. I think the DH is one of those things that, yeah, when Cal needs a DH day, then fine. The catcher at bats that day go to Harry Ford. That's easy. I think if Ford is going to get in the lineup more than just typical backup catcher duties, it's going to be because he's playing in the outfield, not because they're going to try and stick him in there at DH. So I guess the answer to your question is like, no, not really. I don't think he's going to be a primary DH option. I think, they would really like that to be Polanco. And then when Polanco's not doing it, Cal does it. And then you can also put, Julio in the DH day and give Randy a DH day and all that, like they would like to do. I don't think Ford factors in there. I don't think he's earned that. I think if Ford wants to be in the lineup more than just a backup catcher typically is, then he needs to learn how to play right field or left field or whatever. Play in the outfield, learn how to play third base. He needs to put in the work there this winter. And, Harry Ford's a really good athlete. He's a great worker, so I don't doubt that he can do it and he'll transition fine, but it's not going to be the DH where he's going to demand, extra at-bats aside from his backup catcher duty. He's going to have to learn how to play somewhere else. He's not a guy that you bench Jorge Polanco for to make sure you give him at-bats. It's not going to happen. So, he needs to learn how to play third base or right field or whatever enough that he can play there once or twice a week without killing you, and he can get at-bats that way. That's how he's going to get extra at-bats, not because they're going to try and shove him into the DH spot 3 times a week.
All right, Ethan wants to know, when the international free agent window opens up, are there any names that Mariners fans should be looking out for? Which players do the Mariners have lined up to sign? So the only one that I know about, and this is from like January this year that it was reported, so I don't know if things have changed, is Juan Rijo, who's an outfielder. I think Pipeline has him 12 on their top 50 international prospect list. Joe Doyle reported back in January that the Mariners are the favorites to sign him. But again, it's been a while, so I don't know if things have changed on that front. But that's the only guy that I know. Things typically don't change when you hear about that. Yes.
Yeah.
But like, but I'm just saying, just in case it's been a while, we haven't heard anything else. And I don't think anyone else has been linked to them. Maybe I've just missed it. I don't know. I feel like I've been kind of out of the loop on that more than usual over the last year or so. So I might be missing something there, but yeah, Rijo is the only one that I knew of when I saw your question. It was the only one that came to mind. And when I did more research, that was the only name that I could find linked to the Mariners. So Juan Rijo, that's the guy to keep an eye out for. All right, TJ wants to know, what prospects should we be looking at to help out in 2026? I know there's a few obvious ones, but is there a Ben Williamson type who may not be ranked high but could still make an impact? The name that immediately comes to mind there, reading your question, is Brock Rodden. He's 25 years old. This is probably the time. If he's going to make his major league debut, this is probably the year it's going to happen. Switch hitter, pretty good defender, won a minor league Gold Glove last year, was injured a little bit this year, I believe, but he hit well at the AA level. Struck out quite a lot, struck out 30% of the time. So that's a little bit of a red flag, but I mean, he posted like a 138 WRC plus in spite of that. Posts like pretty solid walk rates to counteract the strikeouts a little bit. But the high strikeout rate is concerning. But again, switch hitter, can play a couple of different spots. Super athletic dude, kind of just a scrappy type of player. So yeah, that's like, if you're looking for like the next like Ben Williamson type of dude, like I think Brock Rodden's that guy.
Yeah, it's a good one. The name that jumped out to me, I believe, is Rule 5 eligible, so he might not even be here. But Jared Sundstrom is a guy who, just with the way the Mariners outfield looks right now, feels like there's a pretty decent chance they're going to be looking for corner outfield help. And Sundstrom is a guy who, decent prospect, definitely more of a fourth outfielder type. Might end up being a 4A guy when all is said and done. He's on the older side, but he's got some tools, pretty athletic. He's got some raw power. So Sundstrom's the guy I could see, popping up and helping out for a couple of weeks, like Ben Williamson did. But I think Rodden is probably the better answer here. Sundstrom is another guy. And then, there's always guys in the bullpen, like Bilson and Cleveland and Wraith. There's always those type of guys in the bullpen that pop. So, if you're laying down odds, you would pick a bullpen arm that you like and say that's the guy most likely to do it. But I think Rodden and Sundstrom are both worthy of the consideration of being like this year's Ben Williamson.
All right, we will answer a few more of your questions in just a moment, but first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Gametime. NFL season is back, and there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it's frustrating. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I pulled up Gametime, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite NFL games as low as $100. It's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I bought tickets. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, download Gametime today. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, we have a Patreon. It's called Control the Zone, and on there we talk Mariners, Seahawks, all that good stuff. For more information, go to patreon.com/Control the Zone, link in the description. And also, we're not going to be spinning the wheel for Top 5 Tuesday on this episode because there isn't going to be a Top 5 Tuesday this week. We are going to replace that tomorrow with the unveiling of our off-season plan. We're finally going to show that off to everyone. We've been working on it the last few weeks over on the Patreon, but now we're going to show it to you guys. And for the first time ever, the Mariners actually beat us to the punch and made a pretty significant move before we were able to get our plan out there. But don't worry, spoiler alert, we might have already had that specific player in our plan all along, and maybe at the same AAV. Who knows? See. Ooh. All right, let's get back into your questions here on Mailbag Monday. Nick wants to know, is it more important to get a good return or offload salary in a Luis Castillo trade? Can you do both? That's the question of the winter right there.
Yeah. Kind of depends on what Luis Castillo might be preventing you from doing. Like, is this one of those, I mean, it's not going to happen, but hypothetically, like, do you have the opportunity to sign Alex Bregman? If you can clear that space, then like you trade Luis Castillo for whatever you can get, but like, is he fine? Does he fit well? Are you just clearing money just to clear money, just in case, like during the regular season, there's some weird trade opportunity? Then you want to get a really good return for him. So it really does depend on what the rest of the offseason is supposed to look like from the Mariners' perspective and what opportunities they have. Can you do both? I think if you eat enough money on the contract, you can probably get something pretty good. I mean, Luis Castillo is still a good pitcher. He's solid number 3, I think, a really good number 4, who, pitches is very durable, and he pitches well in big games, and, he's got playoff experience. So there's a lot to like with Castillo. It's just, the stuff isn't as good as it was. And, the home road splits, like, he's still a good pitcher, and he's still making, a fair amount of money for the value he provides. It's just, he's not a bargain anymore. And that makes trading him a little more difficult. So yeah, if you eat enough money, you can probably get something pretty good in return, but what are you saving the money for? Because remember, anything that you trade Castillo, you have to replace him in the rotation. You can't go with Hancock or Logan Evans. So any money you save by trading him, there's a decent chance you're putting most of, if not all of it, right back into the rotation to try and get a pitcher as good or better than Luis Castillo for a year while you wait for Kate Anderson and Durangelo Saint-Jean and whatnot. So, it's a question that doesn't really have a good answer because there are so many different, so many different avenues you can take. Like, again, are you trying to get like Pete Alonso, whatever, right? It doesn't matter who the name is. Is there a big name player that you're trying to get who's making a lot of money and you need to trade Luis to be able to make it fit in your budget? Just get what you can. But, I don't think they have to trade Luis Castillo, depending on what they want to do this winter. But it's a difficult question to answer because there's just too many factors that weigh into it that we just aren't privy to that information. I guess it's important to do whichever one is most important to you. Can you do both? Probably not at $24 million a year, but maybe at $15 million a year, maybe you could. But I don't know. Like Ty said, it's the question of the winter, really. Now that Naylor's signed.
Yeah. Are you a better team at the other end of it? It's my biggest question.
Yeah.
Does it actually make sense for you to do it? Does the money that you save, however much that is, actually lead to a better ball club in the end?
Yeah.
I don't think you can accomplish both, frankly. I don't think you can get a good return and save enough money that it makes sense. Yeah. I don't think you're going to be able to accomplish that. So I think you're looking at either you're straight up salary dumping him and trying to get as much as you can. And I don't even know like what's the maximum you could save in a pure salary dump. I really don't. We're going to take a swing at that in our offseason plan. You guys will see that tomorrow. But spoilers, I know. But in general, like, I don't know how realistic that is. I don't know, again, what the maximum amount of money you could save if you were just like, we'll just take whatever for him. Like if you literally do it the same way the Mariners did with Gino and Sebi Zavala and Carlos Vargas, a couple of years ago. So, and then if you are looking for a decent return, like how decent are we talking? Right? Because last year it seemed like it was like David Hamilton and Tristan Casas for the Red Sox.
Glad he didn't make that move. But
yeah,
I mean, even then they wanted you to take Yoshida. So it wasn't even a salary. You weren't even clearing most of that payroll. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know. A lot of teams are looking for starting pitching, but it's tough to find a good fit for Luis because of the home road splits and because of the contract and all that. So we tried. We looked quite a bit when we were building our offseason plan, and we came up with 3 or 4 pretty good options. It's just, how do you value this guy? I don't know. It's really tough to say.
Well, and that's why I brought up the thing about the money last night, because on one hand, it might be a reason to be optimistic about what the Mariners might have available to them this winter. But on the other hand, it's like, okay, you have these great ambitions, but you also, I don't think you can rely on this idea that you'll just be able to trade Luis Castillo when it's going to work out perfectly for you. Like, there's a very tight window that you have to fit through here with a Castillo trade. We talked about this last winter. Same rules apply this time around. The other thing too, right, is like, now you can hammer out a deal before this point, but you can't make the trade official until after January 1st, specifically if it's to a team that Luis wouldn't waive his no trade clause for. Now, if it's a team that he would waive his no trade clause for anyway, then you can just do it now, right? It doesn't matter. I
think part of that too is like, look, Luis, you're going to this team on January 1st either way, so you might as well waive it now. But Luis, earned that no trade clause, and if he wants to wield it, that's fine. But it expires on the 1st. And by the way, it was the same thing with Robbie Ray and what happened on January 1st a couple of years ago. It expired, and immediately he was traded for Mitch Haniger. So the Mariners have to wait, but it's
But the reason that I bring that up though is like, what's the pitching market going to look like by that point? How desperate are teams sad starting pitching? Where does Luis Castillo kind of rank in terms of like the fallback options for clubs, all that, right? So there's a lot of factors here, and again, like, I just don't know how realistically you can rely upon this. Upon you finding a Luis Castillo trade that is ultimately beneficial to you as an organization. So we'll see. That's why I said what I said last night, because again, it's just like you have these high ambitions, but like, how are you going to afford that? Either you have more money than we think you do, or you've backloaded Josh Naylor's contract, or you are very confident you're going to be able to trade Luis Castillo. One of those 3 things has to be the case here.
Or you're totally fine having your entire offseason being just retaining Josh Naylor and Polo and being like, whatever. Anything else we do will be around the edges, which I really hope it's not that one. We'll see.
All right, Dave has our last question of the day. If you could only choose one, would you rather have the M's make their most impactful moves now or around the trade deadline next July? What could be out there? The problem with relying on the trade deadline to be a significant transaction period for you is you don't know what your team's going to look like at that time. You don't know who's going to be competitive, who's not going to be competitive. You don't even know if those non-competitive teams are actually going to choose to sell. You don't know how they're going to align with your needs. You don't know what other needs might crop up for you. Like, that to me is why I'm going to go with this period, right? The winter.
Easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, for all the reasons Ty mentioned, and like you even brought it up in your own question, Dave. Like, what could be out there? I don't know. Nobody does.
Exactly.
What's out there right now? We know. We know who the free agents are. We mostly have a good idea of who might be out there via trade. Next July, who knows? Like, the trade deadline was never supposed to be about like, oh, we'll fix massive holes in our team. Like, the trade deadline is supposed to be about supplementing your roster. And if there's an opportunity to go out there and take a big swing, then you do it. But like the way the Mariners have used it as kind of like a second off season to make up for the bad off season they just had is not sustainable. It's not a model that's going to work very well in the long run. The Mariners have been very good at trade deadlines, but they shouldn't make that a habit. They should be going into the trade deadline every year being like, oh, well, we could use a fourth outfielder, or, oh, we could use a bullpen arm. And like, that's where you attack it. Not like, oh, we need a number 2 starting pitcher and a everyday first baseman and everyday third baseman, a high leverage. That's not how you're supposed to build your teams.
Yeah.
So
Jerry said it himself a couple of weeks ago. Like, it's their best recruiting tool, right? Being able to get guys in and then sell them on the. I mean, look, it just worked with Josh Naylor, right? And it worked with Luis Castillo, but you can't heavily rely upon it on a year-to-year basis to be a significant, maybe the most significant form of player acquisition for you. Just, you can't treat it as such because there are just so many unknowns that go into it. And, again, like, you were very lucky this past season that the 2 biggest bats that just so happened to be available just so happened to play at the positions that you had the greatest needs at.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to happen every single year. It's not.
I mean, think about it too. It's like those 2 bats came from Arizona, a team nobody thought was going to be selling in the winter.
Arizona, a team that you have a lot of of trade rapport with as well, right? So like,
you had a good relationship with Mike Hazen.
Yeah.
So you can't count on that. Like, the Mariners have over relied on their ability to make deals at the deadline. Like, the deadline should be about like, hey, yeah, we're going to go get Justin Turner and we're going to go get, Caleb Ferguson. And like, that's how we're going to, it shouldn't be like, we have to get Josh Naylor. We have to get Randy Arozarena. We have to get Luis Castillo. It's like, you can still go out there and make those trades. Don't get me wrong, but the Mariners had to make those trades to have any shot of making the playoffs in those years. And that's not how you're supposed to build this thing up. You're supposed to supplement the roster. Like, look at what the Dodgers did at the deadline this year. Not much, because they didn't have to. So that's
all the Blue Jays did was add Louis Varland and Ty France.
Yeah. Like, that's what it's supposed to do. You're not supposed to have to be like, oh, don't worry, we'll go get our 3 and 4 hitter in the middle of the summer. Like, that's not a thing. Every year you cannot rely on that. So get it done now.
Yeah, like, obviously, like, if opportunities present themselves like that into you, you take advantage. But like, that cannot be something that you rely upon as a significant part of your roster build. All right, that is going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. For Colby, Patnode, I'm Dane Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. You can also find us on Instagram at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.